Let's talk with Trey. Discussing life day by day. Together we can pave the way. The next show is underway. Let's talk with Trey. Discussing life day by day. Together we can pave the way. The next show is underway.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Trey Bryan. As you can see, I'm not by myself again. So I got my good brother Tony here, who is going to join me on this topic. I think this is an interesting topic that's coming up because it touches everyone in one aspect or another. Whether you are the individual who are affected by it or you are doing the affecting. So the topic today is, why is it becoming more difficult for people to attend church and religion gatherings? Ponder on that for a minute. Why is it becoming more difficult? And if you don't think it's becoming more difficult, I don't know where you're sleeping. But it is becoming more and more difficult for folks to attend. And I believe there are several items, or certain reasons, but there's more than I'm going to say. But some of the ones that I can think of off the top of my head, and I'm going to pass to my guest, Tony, and he's going to introduce himself and then and add on to what I have to say here. But I think one of the things is a lot of our clergymen and women are not doing the things that God is telling them to do, or they're interpreting it in a way that benefits them more so than benefiting God. Mm-hmm. So I think they forget their role as a shepherd of the people that God has given them the opportunity to do of His people, and they're thinking that it's their people and their children as opposed to God's. Mm-hmm. And then they interpret certain things in scriptures and stuff that benefit them or their collective group, as opposed to realizing that we're supposed to be here as a community for all, and our community is just not within your immediate community, but spread out. So I think that's part of it. And then there's other stuff within all of that from other people that attend church, that things run from like jealousy to jealousy and envy to lust to whatever. All the stuff that goes on in the world, it goes on in the church. I think a lot of times people just make excuses for individuals that are in certain positions and titles and leadership. Yeah. So with that, that's a good way into it. And I'm going to let Tony introduce himself real quick and then give his perspective on what he thinks.
Well, my name is Tony Best, and it's ironic that you chose this subject because my wife literally just asked me yesterday when we're going to go back to church. And I looked at her. I didn't know how to quite answer that. And I couldn't say that I was ready to go back. She looked at me, like we supposed to go. We supposed to go. And I think we supposed to go comes from her childhood upbringing of being supposed to go. More so than is this where you're supposed to be, right now. And it might be where you're supposed to be. I mean, I'm not judging it in any capacity. Yeah. But I do think it's right at this point, individual journey that each person has to feel in their spirit. Me personally, I mean, it's hard to go back to a place that you haven't had a good experience at. And so if it's like asking somebody to go back and go be around their abuser or something. Like, who does that?
Good point.
And whose fault is that? Well, it's not your fault that you feel that way. I mean, it's all relative to whoever mistreated you. Right. I mean, and I don't think anything is done by, there's no coincidences in the world. So if somebody ends up mistreating you from a different place or a specific place, then that's not where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Simply.
I think you're right. I know hurt people. Whether you're in church, work, whatever. True. And if you look at it, if you're at work, you have a job, and they mistreat you, you're not feeling that they feel you, what do? You go and find another job,
Yeah.
right? I think the problem with church gatherings and religious gatherings and stuff is that let me backtrack. It's the same as having, if you categorize jobs or careers in church, right? The difference on how people react to them, I believe, if it's a career or a job, then they find another career. But if it's a church, they like, well, we're just done with church. And what happens is that people need to realize, and it's not their fault, it's just that people need to realize there's other jobs, if you will, like churches,
Right.
to go to. There's other, whether you stay, even if you stay in the same denomination, you don't have to go to First Baptist Church. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you've been hurt there, you can go to 100 Baptist Church. I'm just kidding.
Right.
You can go to Missionary Baptist Church. You know, you can go to some others and check and see. But I think what is easier for folks to do, because I know in our community is a black community, and I'm not excluding any white folks, and this is what I know growing up in the black community, is that we were raised that you listen to the leadership in that church. They're all knowing because they're getting it from God, right? Mm-hmm. So how dare you question something that they're saying or telling you to do because it's from God? That's not every church, everybody. But I'm saying, I'm summing it up a little bit.
Right.
But that's kind of what it is. You give the respect to the clergyman or woman, right?
Right.
And we went as far as calling them reverends.
Right.
When in the truth, if you're really in the Bible, you're not supposed to be called reverend. You only reverend one person, and that's God.
Right.
But different topic.
Right.
So let's stick on this. So why people don't want to go to church, I'm finding it difficult to go to church because they've been hurt.
Absolutely.
Things went on, and I'm gonna give an example of one, but there was many, right? And I will still attend church, right? But I'm real careful on where I attend and who I'm listening to, and I actually listen and not just assume what everything they're saying, and I actually look stuff up too. So, but I give an example of one, or do you want to give an example?
I can give you well, to piggyback on what you just said, you know, when you are on your job, you can choose to get another job, or you can choose to start your own business.
Yeah, good point.
Because, you know, I'm not gonna keep job hopping, trying to find something for me that I can find for myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just that type of guy. So, you know, of course, nothing has nothing to do with people that have a job or people that, you know, want a job. Mm-hmm. I think it's all individual decision. But I will say that I had a job when I was 16 and through 19 and city of Crestwood doing street work and all that different stuff. Mm-hmm. And as time went on, I realized that it wasn't gonna take me to where my dreams and goals were in life. Mm-hmm. So it's all relative. I think it has to line up. Everything has to line up. So if the church that you're at or you attend doesn't line up with the dreams and aspirations that you have as an individual, then it doesn't fit. So you got to move on.
I agree with that. If it doesn't fit, and I would add to the fact that what you should be measuring to see if stuff fit or not is your relationship with God. So how absolutely. Can you even tell? And I think that's one of the issues. A lot of folks don't have a relationship with God, and then they fall for the stuff that may not be right, and the false teachings and all that, right? And because anyone can speak well, if they're in that field, you know, like right. not that all speak well. Right, I'm just saying, majority of folks you jump into that field, you can speak well, and your charisma is there.
Right.
And once you add those two together, people listen.
Right.
So, and they fail to do what you just said. Realize what's in you. Have that connection with God first, then you'll realize where you stand. What I think one of the issues is that a lot of people come to church because they feel broken and they feel like they're missing something. But what they
Absolutely.
fail to do is look and see what is that really that you're missing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you realize that what you're missing, I'm 100% sure it's going to be a connection with God that you need to strengthen up.
Mm-hmm.
And that you have that relationship with Him. And then you come and build your relationship with supporting cast members like a church or something that fits and align with
your-
what your relationship is, right? So it was a good point you made about if you don't want another job, then you create your own business.
Right.
You don't have to keep hopping. I agree with him on that. You don't have to keep hopping to church because you've been hurt at one church and hurting at another church. Guess what? The churches aren't even the same as it was when we were younger. A lot of them are just not just right. So
Exactly.
the leadership in it is just not right. So you can find yourself hopping and hopping and hopping. Well, who's to say that God's not telling you to create your church
Right. Do
within
what-
yourself and who you may actually be helping?
Right.
So so going back to that, why is it difficult? I think that's part of why it's difficult. Majority of it is the leadership in church and what they do. And I give one example. I was with, I'm not going to throw names in and all, but I will say it was before my now wife. We were courting and all that. Went on a trip. Well, it was business. We both had a business trip, different companies, whatever. Went to mine. It just happened to be within 20 minutes of each other. So, but mine, I was in training. So I had to go at night and stay wherever I had to stay and be part of the training team, where she was about 20 minutes away at another location. Well, at that time, we was attending church where the pastor, for whatever reason, I guess he was in the same area my now wife is at, and for some professional reason or whatever, just happened to be there and happened to be in the same hotel area. So when I left at a particular time to go back to where I had to be with my team and all that, I would add that I had took her to dinner and then brought her back, and then I went back. So it was like probably around 9:45, 10 o'clock at night when I was taking off. As I was taking off to go back to where I had to be, a call come in saying that he's coming to see it. Not asking that he's coming to see where she's at to check on her. Red flags went up for me, like, why would a married pastor who's not with his wife, have to come down and visit, at that time, my girlfriend,
Right.
10 o'clock at night,
Right.
just to check on. So a lot of stuff like that, and more stuff happened after all that. We ain't gonna go into that now.
Right, right.
But I'm just saying, of course, there's no connection with him now. But I'm just saying,
Right.
stuff like that builds doubt, and obviously the individual. But if you're not strong enough to realize and have your connection with God, it builds doubt, just not in that individual in that church, but you may start having doubts within your relationship with God if you don't have a strong relationship with Him.
Right.
So I think that caused a lot of individuals, things of that nature cause individuals to say, you know what, I'm just done.
Right.
And don't even bother, because if they're saying this is somebody from God who's bringing, so why would God, if that's a God that's going to allow an individual to do stuff like this and other stuff, then I don't want to be part of God.
Yeah, right.
You see what I'm saying?
That guy.
When in reality is, no, it's not what God is, not
No,
of God.
it couldn't be.
But
Couldn't
when
be.
you have folks that are hurting and folks that are trying to learn themselves and get through life, they're reaching and trying to grab on things. And it's sometimes it'll be their last straw stuff.
Right.
And if that's the case, and then you run into stuff like that, you're like, I'm just done.
Right.
So I think that's why it's difficult. One aspect of why it's difficult.
Well, for me, I was literally at a church that was growing exponentially. I mean, it was the place to be. It had football players there. It had professional lawyers there. It had everybody that was there was somebody you could see yourself trying to be. At some point in life. So the crowd was there, the atmosphere was there, the church was there. And me and my former wife, deceased wife, ran into some marital problems, and we ended up going to counseling. And so, we counseled probably about 2 or 3 times with him, and he gave some great advice, as he should be able to, because he actually had been married 5 times. So I'm not saying the 5 times as a negative. I'm saying, well, shoot, he should have learned something by now.
He should know a lot.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. He's on his 5th marriage. You know what I'm saying? So he should be able to get me through one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
You would think.
And he came from a church that I used to watch on TV all the time, Fred Price.
Mm-hmm.
So he came from a church that I always watched on TV, and then he came here, St. Louis, and kind of duplicated that same energy. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, oh, well, this is it. I don't have to watch TV no more. Yeah. I can go be a part of something.
Yeah.
And when I say this place could have changed St. Louis completely,
mm-hmm.
I mean completely.
Yeah.
The money was there. I mean, I was tithing. I mean, I'm not. But back then, I was tithing, $300 a week.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was on the low end.
Right. I feel you.
We got professional athletes and everything else is there.
Yeah.
There's, the church was paid off.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about, and he showed on the thermometer, okay, we here now. Okay, we paid this one off. Let's build a children's church. And
the building was paid off.
The building was paid off.
But the other funds.
Right. Something wasn't paid off because it all went wherever. But I've been blessed to be able to see things before they happen. And one time I was home and he called, his secretary called. And I just so happened to be at home because God had me there.
Yeah.
And I answered the phone. So she's saying, well, we need to set up an appointment for your wife to come on in. And I'm like, okay. I'm waiting on me too, right? You and your wife, right?
Right.
and you never showed up. It was just for her. And so I set the appointment, because that's the type of dude I am. And I showed up and never told her about the appointment. Until after I told him that we were leaving the church and we were no longer going back and what had happened. And my whole family was at the church. Mm-hmm. And so, I told him specifically, I think people get warnings. I told him, this is your church, not God's church. You're running it like it's yours, mm-hmm. and you need to stop. That was the warning. I said, but I will no longer be attending your church anymore from this day moving forward. And he said he stopped what he was doing. Now I got his attention.
Right.
He said, man, in the 30 years that I've been pastoring, he said, nobody has ever told me that they were leaving. They just disappear. And I just never see them again. I said, well, I appreciate, the counseling you gave and stuff like that. I said, but I don't agree with the approach.
Right.
I said that, it's nothing personal. It's just, we got to go. Mm. And, within probably 2 years after that, everything just kind of fell apart, got divorced. He got divorced again. And he ended up marrying a lady from a couple that he was counseling.
Yeah. So, with all that, let me put a disclaimer out there. We're not saying that all pastors and all clergymen and women, or deacons and deaconesses and all that are doing wrong things. We're not saying that.
No, not at all.
We're addressing the ones that are and who have and who are continuing to do things. You need to stop. If you're watching this for whatever reason, or somebody knows a clergyman or woman is doing stuff that's just not right, go to them. What did the book say? Go and speak to your brother and sister.
Yeah.
And, and talk to them about that. And if they don't listen, what do? You go back and get another brother and sister, and you go and speak to that individual. If they don't listen, you go back again. So if you're saying that let's use the Christian faith. If you're saying you're a Christian, you're following the teachings of Jesus Christ, this is what you should be doing if you're a Christian, then you should be following everything that he's saying to do and not be afraid to address someone just because they are clergyman or woman. Right. And address when they're doing wrong. Who knows? In some cases, they may not even realize they're doing a certain thing. Doubt it, but they may not even realize that, and you may be throwing them right on the back track.
That's true. That's true.
Or you may be able to stop something that can possibly happen that could be bad.
Yeah, that's true.
Down the road. So let's stop putting all that in and realize that everyone is human. And if someone is getting guidance from God, it should be clear that it's guidance from God. Mm-hmm. And if something is seeming a little confusing, then that's not of God, because he's not the author of confusion.
Right.
That's somebody else. That's the author of confusion. So I think all what you're saying, and we gave a couple examples of what we dealt with personally, that I know other individuals, and I'm not going to tell other individuals' experiences because they're not here, but that are more drastic than that. So I want to say to the individuals who have experienced things like that or think they may be experiencing all that to not give up your relationship with God. Because God is still your God, and he's still here for you.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be here without him.
Absolutely.
What I would say is be real particular on where you go and who you do and who you do services with, and pay attention and realize and make sure it's a Bible-based church and not just saying we're a Bible-based church. Make sure they follow in the teachings of Jesus Christ if you're Christian, right? And that realize that if it's something that doesn't feel right or something's not, you're feeling uncomfortable, then 99.9999% of the time it's not right.
Right.
And so stop second guessing yourself. And for the individuals, I don't know, say something. You say something in a minute. That are stuck in that tradition that we grew up in, where you can't second guess the pastor, the bishop, the reverend, whatever, minister.
Right.
You can't second guess them because come on now. Put the lenses that God has given you and get the discernment. Because I believe God give a discernment in most folks. It's just not tapping into it. To let you know what's right or wrong. I call it a light switch. Mm-hmm. So people choose to just cut that light switch off and then go blind in the kitchen. Whereas some of us like that, I want to see in this kitchen, so I want to hurt myself. So,
well, I will say this. I think we get too caught up in thinking that we're the superior species on this planet. And if we are, then why does the superior species need to go to school and need to have somebody show them God and got to go do all these other things when animals survive just fine without all those things?
Right.
There is something within side of us that we untapped to be part of this system.
Right.
And we need to tap back in to what's already inside, just like the animals know. I mean, on these tsunamis, the animals leave the area and don't get swept away. And we so smart, we trying to figure out what's going on, and we get killed in the middle of the,
Oh, that's a nice tornado over there.
Right.
Let's check and see where it's going.
So listen to your spirit and get back grounded to the earth.
Right.
I mean, in this system of life that we've subscribed to, that makes us buy our own food when God put seeds and everything that we can just drop on the ground and eat from. Yeah. We don't have to. We really don't have to do any of this.
Here's what I see a lot. People say things a lot like get back to the basics, and they don't even understand what they mean.
Yeah.
We need to get back to the basics. No, well, the basics is even further back than our kindergarten Sunday school teachings, which is treat people the way that you want to be treated. It goes further back than that. Treat people the way that God intends you to treat people, which is treat them right.
Right.
Stop being deceiving and all that, and stop lying. Stop doing all this other stuff. And once you start seeing that happen, people come together and gel more together. Look at just 100 years ago, even in the midst of oppression and all that. Let's take black folks as example. We were still being there tight, more tighter then.
Yeah, we were
we
good.
are
Doors
now.
Doors were unlocked.
Yeah, look at 1920 something, Oklahoma,
Yeah.
Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? That wasn't the only place that was building the Black Wall Street.
Right.
There was other places.
There's other places
that
too.
was getting bombed, but then
Right.
they were. That's a different story, different topic.
Right.
But they were still sticking together because I think they would fall back to the basics of let's take care of one another, which is the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
You didn't see Jesus Christ saying, "Now give me I need a fly airplane. Let me create this airplane." And
Right.
you didn't. Or I need this money from every town and village that I went to, a region I went
No.
to. I need all this extra money. No. But what we got now? Well, we need to build this church for this. We need to make this money for this and that.
Right,
and
right,
somehow
right.
forget to put it back in the community.
Exactly.
The community's still struggling.
Yeah, right.
And again, it's not every church. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying a lot.
When you could have built
And
a
it's
tent.
like, wait a minute, God told you to build that and have you get an airplane, Clefler Dollar.
Right,
Should
right.
have known by the name.
He didn't
But,
tell you to build,
yeah, so
go through the
God said I need to
neighborhood
get
and-
this airplane so I can reach these other folks when
Yeah.
Jesus walked everywhere. Or rode a donkey or did whatever, you know. But I'm just saying, I'm like, okay, he wasn't going around. But yet you're saying, I'm following the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Right.
But Jesus wasn't grabbing money from everybody.
Yeah.
But he would say stuff like, give that to this individual. What's owed to Caesar, give to Caesar. We're still living in this world, but you shouldn't be of the world.
Well, my thing is you will know by their fruit, by the fruit.
Fruit of the Spirit.
Fruit. And so I haven't seen the fruit. I haven't seen good fruit. So, in order for me to follow any body or any denomination or any type of church setting at this particular point, the fruit will have to be there. When churches are living tax-free, completely tax-free, and the money coming in needs to be going back into the community. Mm-hmm. It's just that simple.
Right.
I mean, it's no, and if it ain't going in the community, then that's not where you need to be. I've only seen one church here right now. I mean, I'm sure there's more than one, but when you're talking about inner city, I would have to say the Friendly Temple is doing a good job with taking care of the seniors, senior living, rehabbing some stuff around where they are. I go down Martin Luther King that street more than any other street because it's paved properly. So, I see fruit there. Whereas, some of these other places, I just don't see it.
So with that, what we're trying to get at is draw some attention to, because we drop nuggets everywhere, right? We're trying to give the attention to the people in the clergy that you're doing wrong. Wake up. It's time to stop it and focus on what God is really. If God have chosen you to be that leader of folks or to be that shepherd of his children, then do just that and take care of the individuals. And then people will see the fruit of the Spirit rising within and be a part, and you'll be even, guess what? You'll be even bigger than what you expected. So if you're looking for that type of thing, which you shouldn't, if you're looking at more of focusing more on doing good things for God, but if you need something, a little pat on the back, what more of a pat on the back than helping someone out and helping multiple people out to say that you did this with the grace of God to help out this community where bring them from where they were to here now. The saddest thing I've seen, and I've seen this in a lot of churches, where members will be of the church and they pay their tithes, right? Because they're told to do so. Mm-hmm. But their electric bill is not on. And the light's not on because they couldn't pay the electric bill. But the church is booming. Or gas is out. Or they don't have any food. And they feel ashamed to ask for food and all. But yet they're going to pay their last dime and go home with nothing or go home with $20 to last them a week, but they pay their tithes.
Right.
And yet 10, 20 years down the road, they're in the same situation. Church is booming, but no assistance the way it needs. I'm not necessarily to constantly give money to the individuals, but teach them something. Show them how they can improve, because that's what we're supposed to be. Help them when they need it. Yeah, so what do you think about that, Tony?
So I think it's pretty obvious now that I think just like the world is evolving and changing, AI and all these different things that's going on in the world, I think the church has to navigate and change with it. And so with that in mind, I think more transparency needs to take place as far as the books are concerned and where money's going to help what organizations. And I think the congregation as a whole should be included in most of those decisions as a body, as a complete church. And so I think if you do it like that, then you don't have that same amount of confusion that you would normally have in a big, mega church as buying planes and extra mansions and yachts that could have changed the whole city block and took a bunch of homeless people off the street with the same purchase.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I think we have to be intentional where we are, where we put our money, and who we are deciding to share a vision with.
Right, and have trust.
And have trust.
I think that's a perfect way to end this. So, a key word that came to my mind is transparency. So, if you're in a church with, if you're a church leader, a clergy member, your transparency should be clear. If it's clear, you shouldn't have any problem with making it clear if it's not, right?
Yeah.
If you're following God, then you shouldn't have any problem with folks, whether you're showing the church's funds, having meetings that church should have those to where the congregation can come and doing your financial, showing them where the finances are being and all that. And it's not where you're saying I gotta show that I'm not doing anything wrong.
Right.
You gotta show that you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, basically.
So
too many people have muddied the water.
Yeah, I think you have to do that. And then, and for those who are, and that'll help you out. And if you're not doing right, and not doing right, do right. It's just that simple.
Right.
Just get right or get out.
Right.
Find another profession. I mean, go into politics. I mean, so do something if you're trying to be crooked. For those individuals that are hurt and trying to find something to go and just don't trust, I feel you. I understand. I really do. There's more evil out there than we thought it was. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So be mindful of who you are being transparent to. Be mindful of who you're opening up to. Mm-hmm. You should be with God first of all, anyway, to get your guidance. Because Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust the Lord with all thy heart and lean not into my own understanding. And in all ways, I will lead you in the right paths.
Right.
So not just one location, the right ways.
To piggyback on that, when you ask God for the guidance, a lot of times God will speak through people. And
Absolutely.
Specifically, it will be very specific. You won't deny that it came from God.
Yeah.
Because it'll be, if you ask what you want specifically, it'll get confirmed through somebody, come straight out of somebody's mouth, exactly where you should go, where you should be, and how you should do it. So
absolutely.
Make sure you get confirmation.
Absolutely.
And not, something that you're trying to do on your own.
Absolutely. And that goes for folks who are trying to start a church. Make sure
yes,
that you're getting that from God.
Yes.
Not from someone who's trying to push you.
Right.
And with that, we want to thank you guys for tuning in again for another episode of Let's Talk with Trey Bryan. Thank you for being a co-host again.
No problem.
And we'll probably have him on another episode. With that, God bless. We love you guys and talk to you soon. Take care of one another. We're out.